Ready to launch the Apollo here. All right, bringing the Housing Authority Board into session. 4 o'clock, and we will begin, as is our habit, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our current envoy to the sublime is Mr. Sierra. You do the prayer.
I'll do prayer.
Please, yeah.
Okay.
It says in the,
Okay, sure.
it says
Okay,
right
so
here, we're having a prayer, and you're our prayer master here.
I can, I'll do a quick prayer. Father God, we just thank you for being with us today. Thank you for being with the Housing Authority and everything we do. And Lord, let us keep in mind that the residents are our clients and our customers, and we need to take care of them as we have been in the most recent past. So Lord, be with us as we make the decisions that impact everybody's life, I guess, on what they do and how they do it. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Very eloquent, thank you, sir. May I have an approval of the minutes if anybody is ready to move on that?
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Yeah. I second that motion.
I have an approval, second. In favor, please? All ayes?
Aye.
Noes? No noes? And our next meeting will be on the 8th of July at Foxtown, per Mr. Clark's request, and it's a good idea for us to be seen and to see different locations. So we will be down there at the next meeting.
What is the actual address at Foxtown for like a GPS?
It would have a number, but just as you're the 304th coming into Sudlersville.
601
300.
Foxtown Drive.
Yeah,
Thank you, Terry.
just as you're coming into Sudlersville, there's
Yeah,
a
I've been there, I know.
big sign to the right. All right. And I think this is the meeting, although we hinted before that Miss Tina Trice, our esteemed member, has not been well and has resigned as a result of that, and that the board will be looking into taking up a new member as per our official count in the next weeks. And with that, I think we go to public comment. Do we have anybody on this?
There's nobody on the list currently.
I'd like to
have-
make a motion that we send a
Yeah.
word of best wishes and get well to
Yeah.
Ms. Trice.
That.
What would you like to send?
If she, a get well card and flowers, if
Okay.
she's, well, flowers would be a good idea. All right. So, is there any public comment? Would you like to speak? We thank you for coming. Well,
I would like to, state, I've been able to talk to many people in Terrapin, and them especially, I'm not sure what the other properties feel, but our property at Terrapin, people are very pleased with what is going on. Is it Brian? Is that his name, the facilities manager?
Brian Barnshaw, Senior, yes.
But I understand he's doing a super job and he's very responsive. And that's all the residents need. And you give our residents the opportunity to have something responded to, and they will take everything in stride. And as we found in the past, you don't take things in stride when you have to fight for what is going on. So now, do you feel the same way? Can I ask?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very pleased with see things getting done that been 5 years since I've been there, that's been in need of maintenance. They're power washing the building now, started last Monday. I don't think we'll ever get that rust off of the building unless, I had one girl just before I came up here, said it's really a nice job they're doing, but I still have that rust on my window.
We've got a plan for that.
It's baked on and I doubt that it will come off.
We've sent the cavalry. It will be gone. Yeah.
Brian's got a plan to color it, match color it, so it'll go on, so, yeah.
You know, and these comments are not, they're not, I just want to mention them because I hear it now, whereas in the past I've heard many different things. And I think that, you know, I as a commissioner am delighted, and I'm sure each one of us. Judy, do you feel the same way?
Absolutely. My phone is quiet.
The fact that there's so few folks here today, I guess, is a sign that things are going well.
Yeah, all compliments, but I'd like to spread those also to Mr. Clark because he is the animating factor here, so, and Mr. Mon. So this project has had the full support of the county, and there's no way that the tenants appraise better how the county is doing than through maintenance. So it's good that that's going as well as it is. So thank you, everybody. All right, with that, no more public comment. I will close public comment and go to the executive director, please.
Okay. Since you guys mentioned about the thanks, and I'll start, I was going to end with that, but I'll start just to keep it going, is that I appreciate the support, but the folks with the county, I mean, our human resources office has been working like crazy because it's a lot of hires going on and they're busy other places. They're working to make sure the current housing authority staff are hired on the right date so that they don't have to go any time without benefits. They're working to get people hired quickly and trained quickly. DPW, the Department of Public Works, has been amazing. Paul Kirst, I've been calling him at weird hours, and he's always picking up his phone. The housing staff of my regular office, they're hanging in there and just doing their regular job and taking on some of the projects for the housing authority. So, and the local management board staff is kind of where I used to be, is kind of working and making sure things are happening. And then lastly, the current housing authority staff with Terry and Kenya and Hassani, you know, they're in there working and they're taking on tasks that I didn't even know were supposed to be done, you know, to make sure that they don't get missed. And they're kind of outside their purview, or have been in the past. So I'd just like to start with just saying that there's so many people coming together to make this happen, and I really appreciate it. In regards to my executive report, the first thing on the agenda was a vacancy report. We're trying to get, so we have some data so we can report to you every time. It gets a little tighter so you guys can kind of see in an evaluative, objective way how we're doing and monitoring it that way. It is definitely good that phone calls are down and you're hearing good things, but what's the data say also? So we're going to start with that, but one of the big things is to turn apartments over quickly. Try to do that in a month because that's funding revenue that comes in. In the month of May, we had 12 vacant apartments, which is about 5% of our total stock. 3 of those are currently ready for occupancy, but Brian is working real hard to bring that number up. Some of those apartments were in some rough shape, so we're working to pull them back and get them going. Our biggest percentage of vacant apartments right now, other than scattered site, we have 3 houses that we're really working to bring those back up, but we also have 13% or 3 vacant units at Fisher Manor. We actually had 1 eviction last month that went all the way, and that was at Terrapin Grove. Work orders in May. We received 34. We completed 58, which means we caught up on some from the previous month. But we still have, as of the end of May, had 38 outstanding, which we're currently trying to check off as we go. And they came, we got 3 this weekend, so they're coming in. So we're working on doing that. In regards to our housing choice vouchers, some folks know as Section 8, we currently administer about 171 of those. We had 1 that left in the month of May due to they died. Our wait list is closed, but we're at 184. We're currently working with Slippery Hill, where we have 14 vouchers where we're allowed to provide vouchers for Slippery Hill. 12 of those have been issued. We're waiting to get them in, and 2 are unissued as of the end of May. In regards to staff updates, we are really working to bring the staff up so that we can get all the stuff that needs to be done. You guys mentioned that we have hired facilities manager Brian Barnshaw Sr., we have to call him, and I'll explain why in a second, but he started on May 22nd and has really worked hard to hit the ground running. On June 20th is a busy day. June 20th, Lisa Gray, our property manager, will be starting. She's got extensive experience in Anne Arundel County managing multiple properties and apartment buildings there. Our facilities tech, who is another one of, so that we will have another person, his name is Ricky Green. He will be starting on June 20th. So we will have a full facilities staff starting on June 20th. And then our current staff, that are housing authority staff, will be transferring. Hassani, Kenya, Chenard, and Terry will all transfer and become county employees working for the housing authority on June 20th also. It's also notable to say that on the housing side of stuff, we were able to fill our vacancy that we had in the county housing building for our office coordinator. Her name's Kathy Culligan. And I mentioned her because she's been providing support, some housing authority support too. And what'll happen is there'll be some synergies there where, just like in past years where the housing authority and the county housing office work together to kind of fill gaps and cover things. And that's already started to happen with her role and doing some things. And she might actually be here on a couple days to help with the minutes, et cetera. And our resource development specialist we've hired is actually Brian Barnshaw Jr. He was previously in the Planning and Zoning Office working on a project. They were not happy to see him go. Apparently, he was doing an amazing job with some projects they were doing, and he is going to be our resource development specialist. And the reason I wanted to mention him specifically, even though he's not for the Housing Authority, he will be at the Department of Community Services, and that entire job is to develop resources and bring resources and grants and everything else into the department. And that's where we've been able to show that that position is tripled, sometimes tripled the amount of money it actually costs to have that position. And we've already put him on projects for the Housing Authority to find additional resources and funds. So that we got a lot going on with staff updates, and that's, and on the other side of it, takes a lot of time to kind of train and bring those folks up so they feel comfortable, but that's what we're working on now. In regards to maintenance, during the month of May, we had 9 emergency calls, but as the person who got that turned over to my phone number, it felt like a lot more than 9. But if it was only 9, we had 3 after-hour lockouts and 6 other after-hours calls, mainly leaks and toilet issues, things like that. When we have calls, our priority list is typically we want to get apartments turned over, and then we want to deal with work orders, and of course, anything ahead of all of it is safety, and then cosmetic, but we're also working on some of the cosmetic things now. Let's see, was there anything else I need to say in regards to... In regards to the office relocation, our offices to move current staff over that are in the Housing Authority admin building over on Water Street, the offices are ready to go. They're cleaned out, and we have the space at Kramer Center. It's just a matter of, because Housing Authority has its own IT and own server and all that, that it takes a little while to get all of the computer systems transitioned. So we're hoping to have that by between now and the end of July, but hopefully sooner rather than later, hopefully around the beginning of July. So that's what we're working there, I think. And yep, that's everything, unless there's any questions for my...
Yeah, let me
Yes.
ask a quick question. What is the current status of any waiting lists that we have for our properties?
Current status, the waiting list, that's a good question. I can tell you the waiting list for the Housing Choice Vouchers, which is 180 some. I don't know what the waiting list is for the other houses, but I can start reporting that if you would like. I can start bringing that in and making that part of my executive director's report. It's extensive.
I would like to know that information, but I'd also like to know whether, are we limiting applications to Queen Anne's County residents, or are we open to other
That's a
residents?
it's funny, I'm getting good at answering that question. So, we don't limit, but the chances of somebody from outside the county getting a spot is very, very low, because folks that have a Queen Anne's County address are put up ahead.
Right.
What does happen, and this is a big part of when you'll probably have gotten the phone call, well, I was number 5 on the list, and now I'm number 8. What the heck happened? I was so excited, I got moved to number 8. And what that story is sometimes if somebody gets on the list and they're from Virginia, but then in the course of while they were on the list, they get a Queen Anne's County address, they move back up to where they would have been when they started. That's just the rules of our waiting list. So they might have jumped in front of a person. That would be why you'll often hear of a person jumping from 5 to 7 on the waiting list, is that a person that was not a Queen Anne's County resident is now become a Queen Anne's County resident, so they move to where their spot would have been had they been a Queen Anne's County resident.
So
all
just
along.
so I understand how it works, as a vacancy might come up at any one of the properties, the only way an out-of-county resident is going to be considered would be if there is no in-county resident that wants that property.
That's correct. That's not on the list anyway, yeah.
Is that a rule imposed by HUD, or is that a rule which we took on?
It's a rule imposed by HUD that we have waiting list rules, and it allows for that. But I think that piece was added on at some point by the Housing Authority Board, is my guess.
Well, I'm asking it for that question because you would think that before long a Queen Anne person would come along, and I cannot tell you how much we favor Queen Anne County people.
Well, I know that there's a long 2+ year waiting list in other parts of the state. So it just makes me curious of how it works here.
Well, Michael, would you look up and see whether that's something that's imposed by HUD, or we can
Sure.
change it, and then let's consider.
Well, I mean, it is,
That might be a bad idea or good, but
well, it's currently in our rules now that Queen Anne's County get priority. It's in the rules
I
now.
understand,
Yeah.
but I would even hold an apartment for 2 months or something, you know what I mean? Because once you put somebody else in it, they're there forever.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
So in
anyway,
other words, your question is to look up can we just make it so you have to live in Queen Anne's County? You can't.
Is
I
there,
think
is
we
there
ought to
any
consider
rule
it.
in regards to the length of time someone has to live in Queen Anne's County before they're eligible?
There is not.
I mean, Queen Anne's County is fundamentally paying for this. I don't leave it up to the board, but I think we ought to.
I'll research
Take
it.
a
The
look.
reason for my question is because I'm aware of longer 2+ year waiting lists in other parts of the state.
No, I thought it was a.
There's some long
extremely
ones
good
here too.
question.
And each waiting list is about, based on, do they want a 2-bedroom or a 1-bedroom? Do they want to be in Terrapin Grove? Do they want to be in a cottage in Terrapin Grove? Do they want to be up in Foxtown? And, every place and every bedroom's got kind of a different list. Some are much shorter than others. Some are much longer than others.
So is the wait list location specific, or if I'm in Terrapin Grove and my name comes up, can I move to Foxtown, or?
There's a list for each one. And not only is there a list for Terrapin Grove, there's a list for Terrapin Grove 2-bedrooms, a list for Terrapin Grove 1-bedrooms, and a list for Terrapin Grove cottages. Each one's a separate list. You can get on all of them more than once, but they're all separate lists.
So do we have any pending issues with people saying that they were missed in the wait list, or?
That always seems to be a concern, but I have not heard it in a month or so.
Okay.
I think since we took over, the sense
I'm
of
knocking on wood.
probity.
If someone gets on a wait list for multiple type facilities within our system and elects to move into one of them, they come up, are they allowed to stay on the wait list in case 2 months later the one they really wanted comes up? Or
I was afraid somebody was going to ask that question because I don't know the answer. But I think they can stay on the list and then they could move to the other one. The one thing that has been happening a little bit, or one of the issues that has come up is like folks will say they just want to move. They're already in a place and they think they can have priority to move to another place. And they actually know in order to move to another room, you have to be on the wait list, or we have some like disability ways you can, if you have a disability that needs something, you can get moved up for a transfer room that way. But you have to do the paperwork and get a doctor to approve it and things like that.
I have heard, I don't have confirmation, but I have heard, because we didn't have anyone on the wait list for like two-bedroom or two-bedroom one or two-bedroom, two-bath, that the people that may possibly be living in here now have come from Delaware.
Or another out of state. That is very possible. And I think at one, that's changed, but at one point, the 2 bedrooms out at Terrapin, there was nobody on the wait list, so that you could move up to that one
Right.
pretty quickly. So that could have been the
So
case.
to restrict it just to Queen Anne's County would mean those two-bedroom, one-bath, or two-bedroom, two-bath were open for quite some time,
Really?
because we didn't have the local people to fill it. So,
Might be. Terry, do you have any idea of the gross number of people on the waiting list? I don't, because Kenya maintains. Yeah, okay, I thought you might. Yeah,
I was thinking we could have, we'll probably do a little presentation on Foxtown, but we could do a waitlist presentation in August if you like.
yeah, just a rough number.
We'll definitely have, we can add that to it.
So, a quick question. In terms of our attorney, is Galler still on board? Have we switched over?
As far as we've not done anything official, but I've been reaching out and working with Pat Thompson. We've given him at least 4 questions that I can think of off the top of my head, maybe more, and he's just like he is for the county. He responds quickly and he seems to know the topics pretty well. So I've had a lot of luck with him, and just recently we had an eviction we thought was going to be a little bit technical. It actually resolved itself, I think, just today. But he was actually going to send one of his associates to help our staff in court deal with that eviction. So he's been very helpful.
So Pat is the attorney of record now? Good.
Yeah, that's who I've been going to.
Effectively, but you
Yeah.
might check if there's a retainer going out to this guy.
I will check on that. I don't think there is, but I will check.
Yeah. Is that it for,
Yep, that's for my report. That is it, unless there's more questions.
gentlemen and lady? Any further questions of Mr. Clark? All right, ending that, we will proceed to any old business, and we'll start with the bylaws.
The only thing to say is they've been updated. This group voted on them last month. They've been updated, and the only thing to add is that we've given you a final copy, and that you might notice that they have holes punched in them for a binder that we haven't given you yet, but we hope in the fall to start providing the board with board binders, and you can provide updated documents and stuff then.
And the rental increase.
Rental increase, a notification has been sent out to the general notification has been sent out, and then that'll be starting in August 1st effective, and we are working on another letter to go out for folks. It'll be everybody at their rent level, let them know what their new rent is. I mean, we voted, we let them know it's going up by 6%, but specifically what does that mean based on the rent you're receiving?
And
And we're working on that letter now.
It has been essentially without comment.
Yeah, that's correct.
So what's the county feedback on this transition so far? I mean, I know we're pleased as a board, but as a county, when they look at this, is it?
There's the man to ask.
They're asking what the county's, I'm
It's
sorry.
been very favorable. We've got accolades all across the board, so no complaints, and folks seem to be very, very pleased with the transition, and obviously, Mike's doing a great job, and we have more to come, more to do. And
Thanks. Thanks to the administrator who makes all these things possible. All right.
He would know.
He would know. All right, then we proceed from old business to new business, the budget, sir.
All right, so I would like to start by letting you know that, as I think most everyone knows, that the budget has, it's been a tough thing to wrap our fingers around. Our finance office has been doing an excellent job establishing it and getting it set up. So what you have there is you have a proposed budget with the idea that Jeff Rank and Nicole Hepfer, both from the finance office, have been working with Justine and me and looking at the numbers from last year and working and what the county has offered for next year and put in their budget. And they've developed a budget with the idea that, for your approval, if you so choose, the idea that it's going to, this is still a learning process, and we are going to continue to have to update it, amend it, make it tighter, fix it as the year comes along. This budget would be its fiscal year 2025, which means it starts on July 1 of this upcoming month. And so I just want to note that the county the county finance office has been instrumental in bringing the housing authority back to financial stability. They've learned that county's housing authority's accounting system, which is completely different than the one the county uses, and they've continued to use it. They've had to do it off-site due to it not being web-based. They've been working intensely with our vendors, our accountant, and our auditor to update accounts and balances and catch up our payables. Despite significant expenses required to upgrade the properties, and the finance office has maintained excellent communication with me as the executive director. They've been training new staff and to manage payables and bookkeeping information. The finance office is working hard to complete the budget today. And I think that's there. There's a couple, I want to pull an email out also. Have it. So, just a couple of things Nicole asked me to point out to you that in regards to the document you have in front of you, she based the rent, included $133,000 per month in rental income. The July 2024 budget remained the same, but then in August it reflects the rent increase and increased revenue from the increase, which bumps it from $133,000 a month to $141,000 a month. Total budget for the year of $1.688 million. She's not changed the budget for our HAP revenue and our management fee. That continues to be the same. We've got some miscellaneous income that'll be coming in May of next year of $25,000 payment from Slippery Hill and our involvement with Slippery Hill. The county grant revenue was new in fiscal year 25 and equals $500,000. The county included in the budget as an allocation to the housing authority. She's allocated that amount across different developments and scattered site to balance each of their individual budgets, but that was to balance the budget that could move as the year goes on based on true expenses. In regards to expenses, they've increased, and we've increased it by 3%, just as kind of a rule of thumb there. The management fee did not increase this line item. The reason is the amount of the properties allocated to admin and both revenue and expenses need to match. Contract costs of $150,000 for fiscal year 24. It showed on the total, but never included in admin or any of the property budgets. So Nicole is working with the fee accountant, and it was never entered into last year. So they don't have any details on this line item, and since it wasn't entered as an expense in last year, she chose to not enter that again in this year. In regards to debt, it's been entered based on past due and current amounts, except that they've decreased Foxtown by $25,000 in order to balance that budget. And she thinks that that's an okay thing to do as the housing authority has been late on debt payments to the county for several years, and we may not be able to catch up completely in 1 year for debt payments. If there is additional revenue or expenses lower than expected, we can amend that budget as needed. Again, speaking over. There's a line for extraordinary maintenance. This was zero last year, but we've entered in $276,000 for FY26. split between administration, Riverside, Graysonville, and Terrapin. And these amounts are what she calls a plug-in to balance the cash flow from operation lines. For these properties, there was a surplus, so she balanced the surplus by adding the extraordinary maintenance expense. As we know, there will be likely not be an actual surplus in these, that we'll be using those to pay for expenses. Trying to see what else, if she asked me anything. In the last line, you'll see in the budget, there's project reserves. Those are not actually part of the budget, but just for your information. We are supposed to have certain amounts in project reserves. In my mind, we've got to check what's another thing that we're going to be looking at this year. I think those numbers are a little bit low. We need to build those up. Those are supposed, at one point, they were quite high, and the idea is to be able to use those to pay for various maintenance expenses. But at the moment, they need to be built and increased. So that was the budget. That's an overview of the budget. Again, this is the month that we have in our bylaws to approve a budget, and the thought was that we, as the years go on, like next year, things will be a lot tighter. Will be based on more accurate information. You'll be getting more accurate reports as time goes through the year, and so our thought was that, or at least their thoughts and my recommendation are that we approve the budget this year so that we're in compliance with having a budget approved. And we continue to do what we have been doing for the last 3 months, is to keep a close eye on it and update it as we learn more.
Do that. I'd like to add that a thing that has made this budget a lot more complex to understand is the fact that that our historic budget is completely unrealistic, that there were a considerable accumulation of late paid or unpaid bills, so that as we took it on, last year's expenses were not adequately represented in reality. And then secondly, there's obviously been a very considerable amount of accrued maintenance. So you have both on the financial side and the maintenance side, large unknown blocks of expense, which we're going to have to work our way through. But the county has been very steadfast in this and continues to be. And we will get on top of it. And thank you to the finance department for dealing with as many uncertainties as they have. So that would be that.
Motion, if folks are comfortable making a motion and
Yeah.
action on that.
Approve the
Oh, yes, I make a motion to approve the budget as stated.
as proposed, yeah.
Second.
You have a second, Judy?
I second it.
All in favor of the budget as proposed?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Appreciate that.
Staring at you.
Okay.
I don't know that overview of reports due and the operating agreement, I guess we need to.
Yeah. So the reports due is just an update. One of the things, in addition to working on the facilities of, getting our facilities back in order, there's also a lot of reports that we're working to get in to make sure are tight, that we have to do. Some are in on time, some are just the way they need to be, and some we need to catch up and learn. In addition to all that, in catching up the reports, there's also some new changes that are happening specifically with a program that's called HOTMA. And that's a Housing Opportunity Through Modernization Act, which was put in HUD and it was signed into federal law back in 2016. But a lot of the changes are becoming just this year. So I'm working to not only learn what reports we have to get in, what some reports we're behind that we need to respond to. I'm trying to catch those up, and also what we have to develop plans for some of these things and where we are with some of these plans. And talking with staff, it sounds like we're in good shape with several of the plans, but there's a couple other plans that we might need to get developed post haste. One of those specifically is the HOTMA plan, which is we have to develop how we're going to deal with changing the income calculations to determine who's eligible, how we're going to deal with income reviews to determine what kind of income folks are and the assets they have. So we're working on that as we speak. I've been talking with the folks. Nan McKay is a group that provides a lot of support with that. It's a consulting agency that provides a lot of support to housing agencies all over the country, and I've been kind of going back and forth with phone calls on them to talk to them about it. So we're working on that. The other interesting one is another program that's come out from the state where they've actually put some money to deal with folks that are on the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher wait list. And they also want to put an emphasis on homeless folks. And that is new money that's due to start, and there is some set aside. I don't know the exact amount yet. It's not a huge amount. It might get us 3 or 4 more vouchers starting July 1. And we have to, as the state works this out, we're going to have to develop a plan to submit to them on how we're going to administer that also. And those are all things I'm learning. As I'm learning, I developed a list that's in front of you just for your information of all the different types of reports that we are working on. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there that we're working. As we go through the year, there'll probably be certain parts of the year where you might be asked to review or approve these plans. But I just want to kind of get the ball rolling by letting you know that we're kind of reviewing these and taking an assessment of what we're working on there.
Is there still a 5-year plan?
There is still a 5-year plan. I believe it is the, see, this is where I'm still learning. I believe it's either the admin plan or the ACOP. Or actually, it might be, well, there's a couple, but it might be the capital needs assessment that is typically due every 5 years too. And that's a look at the capital needs, which hasn't been done in a while. And the state did ask, they sent me an email, they said, do you have a capital needs assessment plan? Has one been done in a while? I responded, no, it hasn't. And they're like, okay. So we'll see where that goes, but.
Thank you.
So note from all this, the immense amount of work that it takes to get this done. So many thanks and commendations to Mr. Clark.
So the sale of the old offices, how does that impact the operation of the housing authority?
So, and it's funny, the sale of the administrative offices, I just want to note that in regards to that, so I don't forget, that Fitz Turner, the appraiser who the county typically uses, recommended by the county folks, was over there on May 30th. They haven't told us what they think it's worth yet. I do know that we still have about $167,000 mortgage on that property. But as far as the staff moving over, hopefully, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to, because we'll have the housing office and the staff in the housing authority all there so they can kind of gain on each other's knowledge, cover each other's if somebody's busy or out. We even talked about the housing authority staff is going to be trained on a certain day, and all of them are going to be out. So like we can ask our new office coordinator to cover the phones that day for the housing authority where that wasn't there in the past. So things like that we're hoping will happen. And also another thing that's happened, already started happening, is like we have in the county housing office, we have a person who handles housing rehabilitations for mostly seniors who own their houses, but they might have trouble affording to live there if they want to try to maintain it. So we have different types of funds and grants that we can help to do housing rehabs. Well, since she knows how to do those rehabs and works on those, she's been doing a lot of work with our scattered site, getting loans, figuring out what it needs to take to bring 3 of those back online. We just brought one back online last week and rented it up in Sothersville, so we've got 2 more. And that's where that having that person do that, takes a little bit off of Brian and other people in the staff. So that's where I'm hoping more and more of that'll happen. And we've got the space over there.
So the maintenance staff, are they domiciled in one location, or do they work not from home, but do they work very remotely and do not have a quote-unquote office or shed?
They were actually, what'll happen is the way we're looking is Brian has actually got an office located out at Terrapin Grove. That's his home base, but he will have he has a laptop and he'll have workspaces at every location. So he can work from every location with his laptop. The property manager, this is the way we're trying to deal with to make sure these places are covered more often. The property manager is going to have full-time office space in Foxtown. So we hopefully got both ends of the county covered. If there's a lockout, that, might be able to, they could go and handle it or something like that and kind of cover in the meantime. But she will also be driving all over the county, handling things with a laptop. And she will have a pretty strong workspace in Terrapin Grove also. But again, she'll have a workspace in Fisher, and she'll also have a workspace in Graceville Terrace. So the idea is that they will be very mobile, and other staff I will be also. So.
Are we still offering staff residency in our buildings?
We have 2, but we probably won't be doing any more. And then we're discussing how to handle the other 2 at the moment, right now, so.
Operating agreement.
Operating agreement. So, in regards to the operating agreement, Todd and I and Commissioner Corcorino had the opportunity to speak with the head of the HUD office in Baltimore a month or so ago. And she suggested that in addition to the resolution this group made to kind of rekindle the partnership, strengthen the partnership with the county, that it would be clearer if there's also an operating agreement in place. So and this is another, with the attorney, it's another thing where I put together an operating agreement with the purpose of formalizing, the purpose of it is, and based on what the feedback we got from HUD in Baltimore, was to clarify the roles and responsibilities of Queen Anne's County versus the roles of the Housing Authority and the Housing Authority Board. The idea is the management and oversight is that the county manages the QACPHA operations, including property, oversight, project management, and staffing, and the county commissioners appoint the executive director to the Housing Authority, and that's made clear in this also. But it also maintains that the Queen Anne's County Housing Authority Board has independence, and that you all maintain governance and oversight roles as an independent entity. You oversee agency operations and ensure that alignment with the housing mission. Resource allocation, the county provides support through various departments, their housing office, their finance, human resources, information technology, public works, community services, et cetera. The support includes administrative assistance, financial oversight, technology infrastructure, and even maintenance support and services. And then it also discusses collaboration support, where both parties commit to a collaborative relationship, where we work to engage in regular communication and coordination to make sure we're all meeting the mission. So that's kind of built into this. There's some pieces built into about measuring performance and evaluation. We've started touching on that at this board meeting, where we're looking at how fast are we turning over these apartments, how long have they been vacant, how long's our waiting list, things that you all offered and wanted to know today. So we'll be measuring some of those metrics. And then the way this agreement is written is that it can be amended or terminated by mutual written consent. And it has the conditions just like any agreement does for termination. Legal and regulatory compliance, it was reviewed by Pat Thompson, and he seemed to think he made any comments he made, which I don't think were many, we implemented into the document you have in front of you and were sent out. And I think it was presented to you at the last board meeting, so if you all were so inclined and wanted to accept that operating agreement, we could then accept it, and then the next step would be to send it to the county commissioners, or it might be for our county administrator to sign. I got to remember that now. Yes, this one is, we would then submit it to our county administrator, Mr. Todd Mon, for signature, if you all were to agree to approve it today.
We want to vote on approving it today.
I would love a motion for, since I think we presented a copy of it at last month's meeting,
Right.
so we've had a month to.
So moved.
Do you have a second? Second?
A second, yes.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any further comment? All in favor? All opposed? Any opposed?
So make sure I get your signature before you leave today.
There you go.
For that.
And the last item is the sale. We've already touched on that. Do we need to say any more?
The only thing on that is I've got to check, but I believe further discussion on it will probably have to be in closed session, as I believe that's typically how sales happen. So we'll probably start, if we need to have discussions, we'll probably do that at the beginning in a closed session.
Excellent. With that, that closes the review by our administrator. Has anybody got any thoughts or remarks or?
So this replaces the ever elusive MOU? The agreement?
I would say supplements.
I think that's a good
I don't think
word.
we ever had it. Did we, Todd? The memorandum of understanding, did that ever get resolved?
It was never fully ratified.
Right.
There's several versions of that. and this was
Yeah,
basically
perfect.
now county development.
Well, there are no further offerings by the board or personnel. I will ask for a adjournment.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.